Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about autonomous software engineering in the world of Cognition and Windsurf and our partnership with Cognizant. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I heard we're having this talk, and I flew right in last minute, and I'm glad that I made it.
I appreciate it. And you built a fascinating ecosystem of Cognition and Windsurf. Cognition is known for Devon, which is a autonomous AI software engineer, and Windsurf was known for the integrated developer environment. Bringing the two together was a very powerful combination. It's like a flywheel. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, what we notice is there's a lot of different use cases for coding and a lot of different surface areas to kind of launch your agents. So with Windsurf, you're kind of steering a single agent to the end of a result. And an agent, of course, is you say something you want to do and it gets it done, multiple ways to do it. And with Devon, it is actually asynchronous. You let a very long-running task go off into the cloud and spend as much time as it needs to accomplish the task. Now, what we're discovering, though, is there's much more surface areas to cover. So going forward, Cognition is more of a platform of a lot of different agents that you can launch from different points. And it's what we're noticing in the market is there's so many point solutions coming out. Every week, there's another startup raising $100 million as a new point solution. So what we want to do at Cognition is make sure you have one platform with a lot of surface area to cover different point solutions under one family.
Terrific. In fact, I think you introduced the word autonomous software cycles. And what was fascinating is the early adoption of AI into software development cycles was code assist, and it was synchronous. And what you kind of introduced to the world is asynchronous AI agents working with you, which essentially means you can macro delegate and micro steer.
Exactly.
And when you do so, you're kind of parallel processing a whole bunch of things in an asynchronous way, and you're able to reduce the cycle time. I mean, it's not just about cost of technology deployment, it's also about agility and speed. So the whole concept of asynchronous software engineering is, I think, just a terrific idea for software cycles. How much have you seen this in real production work, and what are the preliminary results around it?
Right. So it's important to note that there are use cases for both. For synchronous agents with Windsurf, you want to actually be there for iteration, for human taste, design in real time, and you want it to be fast. Yeah. But for asynchronous agents, you want something that's like repetitive and the outcome is
longish period.
And long period because it might be needing to do a lot of things. It might need to research what your organizational knowledge is. It might need to look at the logs and investigate to see what the problem is. But the outcome is predictable. It should be able to write unit tests, run them, and validate that the work it's doing is correct. So you can have one person, in theory, launch 10 different agents at once. And I think we're seeing that inflection point where people are realizing that, again, if you're limited to one agent, you can do a lot of work now. But a single person can now do the work of 10 people if it's able to assign to a lot of asynchronous agents.
Absolutely. So, we are slowly starting to get into, what I call, if all of this fructifies and goes mainstream, we're going to be in software abundance. What would be the role of a software developer, and I mean a real software human developer versus a agent developer, if I may? What do you think? How does that interplay happen?
I think when you set up an entire project, let's say a $100 million project, that is going to change. You have to know what an agent is going to be able to do and what it cannot do. And you have to organize a project in a way where you're delegating a lot to agents. And a lot of the people on your team are going to be orchestrating these agents. Their full-time job, and maybe they're not even developers, is to just assign things to agents, validate that it works, and the project's going to be faster, and you're going to get more done. But the whole mindset has to change about how to even do software engineering going forward.
Completely. In fact, along with my colleague Andrea, I actually wrote a thought paper on how AI is going to be this quarterback kind of a thing. And you're going to have a lot of human effort on ideation, prompting and all of it on one side. On the other side, you have validation and verification jobs. And when you do this, the human endeavor is also to know what AI does, because the validation and verification will actually be much more stronger if you have native skills of doing the things which AI does, but allowing AI to do it and not do it. So, the concept of creating jobs on the two sides of the spectrum and allowing AI to be that quarterback, I think is a fascinating shift. I actually see, I don't know what your views are.
We have a bottleneck happening where the effort to write code is going to zero, right? So that means you have to put more things into the system of agents, and that means your ambitions have to change. You have to want to do more. You have to know how to plan better and put more into the system. But on the other hand, the validation is also becoming a bottleneck as well. Yeah. So one aspect of that is building tools that will help accelerate the validation and review. Stay tuned for that, by the way. And this whole system again is going to keep expanding more and more to a higher level.
Do you ever see this, whatever you call AGI is, your definition, where code is directly shipped to production and there's no human in the loop?
This is already happening, by the way. They're very easy to validate things. Let's say a website change, where we at Cognition just ask Devin, hey, can you just make the change? And it's done.
Portions of it, I'm saying. Yeah. Almost everything which is codified can actually be. There's two schools of thought. One school of thought is the validation and verification will always be there. Even at AGI, you will never ship code into production. There's so many things people do around it. In fact, I want to come to my next question after you respond to this. Do you ever see that situation where code is directly shipped into production and there's no human in the loop at all?
Definitely all the time now, especially with vibe-coded things, right? Because they're not even engineers and they're shipping things to production. But the percentage of the overall things that are validated and goes into PR review today is just going to keep getting smaller. I think overall there's more stuff going to get put in, so maybe more time is spent on review just because there's so much more code being written. But I think that whole end part where the code is validated, people are just going to naturally confirm and approve things because there's use cases where it's very obvious that the code is going to be correct. And I think that's a weird paradigm shift where not everything has to be reviewed, but a lot of very key, more complex, more higher priority, higher urgency things that they could break do get reviewed, and then everything else just goes right through.
Terrific. In fact, one of the things we're very excited about the partnership. We want to step it up. We want to take it to our clients. We have this AI builder strategy where we not only look at the human effort, but we look at all the constituents needed in the contextual computing era we are all in, which is in and around the LLMs. Access to LLMs, access to the compute, access to the platforms, access to human capital, bundle all of that and take it as a service to our clients. So we're very excited about stepping our partnership up all the way when we did the Vibe Coding event a couple of months ago to where we are now on the go-to-market. So one of the things which we are very keen and excited to work with is context engineering. We think in the contextual computing era around the LLMs, very probabilistic work in enterprises is going to be fed into software. It's almost software 2.0. The past we wrote things which we could specify. The things we will write software on is things which we could verify. So it's a huge difference. So context plays a very important role. And we work with a company called Context Fabric, which takes work graphs from teams and feeds it into the platforms and the LLMs, which then create contextual agents. Just wanted to check with you on how much context is weaved into your platforms and how you see that as an important feeder into productivity.
By the way, we should call our partnership Cog Squared, right? It's a Cognition, Cognizant.
I know, that's so true. It's both starts with it's a Cog Squared partnership.
Cog Squared partnership. So going back to the question about context. So context has changed drastically monthly, right? So in the past, you would take pieces of the code. I mean, in the past, you would just take the entire code base and try to use that as context. And then you started breaking it down and become more efficient. And then you had to have a lot of technology for very large code bases to get the right pieces of the code. Now, context is a lot of things. It's your organizational knowledge, your kind of guardrails and rules. It is also investigation. So you have agents actually going out, searching every little file and pulling that into the context. And you have things like what we call Deep Wiki, which is a knowledge graph of your code base. So it looks like Wikipedia. And by the way, we have had customers with hundreds of thousands of Deep Wikis now of their repos. And we use that as context as well. And all these things inform the model how to have a better result because it has better knowledge and better context of how the system works. I think context engineering is just going to keep accelerating and developing over time.
Yeah. And do you see a point where, like we have, I mean, I know clients who are already doing this, where you have employees having a unique identity. You have a similar identity for the Devon engineer who kind of has a number and an identity as like a software engineer. That's going mainstream. I don't know how you're seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to your Jira tickets, you can tag Devon as if it were a person. You would ask Devon questions in your Slack. But we actually have more personas coming up. We just created one called Dana, which stands for, which is actually a data analyst, Dana. Yeah. And that one is the sales team is using heavily every day. You look at our analytics channels and the entire sales team is asking questions about every customer. What are the insights? What is the knowledge I should know? I'm going to go into a meeting. What should I ask them? And they're all asking this agent Dana now. So Devon and Dana now probably I talk to more than any other employee at the company at this point because there's so much insights they can give and so much productivity that Devon could bring, for example.
Terrific. Jeff, I had one final question. You know, we had this distinctive two categories in software which was written in the last 4 to 5 decades. One of producers and one of consumers. And that distinction was because producers needed the skills to write software code, very deterministic, and consumers were consuming it. We had super users in the middle. You think we're going to get into that era where that distinction is going to bridge and you'll see micro producers who are producing and consuming and will blur the line. Is that, you think that's going to happen in the next few years?
Few years is an eternity in AI. I think the layer of where you orchestrate changes. So you can say, hey, I need to make this function.
The point I'm making is an HR professional, finance professional, marketing professional, producing and consuming, and iteratively doing it, and you don't need software developers anymore.
No, this is my point, is there's this one end where you're telling the agent, I need very specifically what this function is going to do. There's this other end where you say, I want to build $1 billion company, do it, right? You have these two layers, and I think you're just going to keep moving down the stack. And right now we're at this layer where I have this project, I need you to fix it, or I have this bug, I need you to fix it, and it goes and does things. You're going to go one layer above and say, hey, I need to build an HR team. What do I need to do, right? And the agent will build out the plan and then execute on it. So you keep going higher and higher until you get to the point where, how do I build $1 billion company? And it will probably be able to do it.
So what's the human endeavor then in that era of software abundance where you see autonomous production? What do you think will be the human endeavor?
There are things the AI doesn't know. There are things they don't know about you or what your intention is going to be, right? So there's going to be a lot of human intervention, even saying I need to build $1 billion company, and then the AI is going to probably wonder, like, what do you have access to? What are the resources you have that I can utilize? And you need humans to be there and assist that. And we were seeing this at big organizations. They want to leverage agents. And number one, they don't know how to use them. But number two is they don't know what resources to feed the agent, the systems to integrate. And that's why we want to have these partnerships with GSIs and people like yourself to train these organizations and help them integrate and help them scale, right?
Terrific. I'm very excited about the partnership, very excited about taking this to clients. I mean, we already worked with you in the last few quarters. We've been having good traction. So we're excited to amplify this in our client communities.
Yes, likewise, and hope to fly back again so we could hang out again. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us in New York.
Thank you.